All right, let's go ahead and get started, everybody. Greetings, everyone. My name is Ethan Taylor, and I work with the U.S. Department of the Interior's International Technical Assistance Program, or ITAP for short. ITAP builds capacity in other countries by drawing from the diverse expertise of the department's 70,000 employees, including those of the National Park Service. In Georgia, we are partnering with the government of Georgia, as well as a variety of NGOs, DMOs, and the private sector to share best practices in protected area management and sustainable tourism, all with the generous support of the U.S. Agency for International Development, or USAID. It is my great pleasure to welcome each of you to this first in a series of 7 virtual workshop trainings on interpretive trail planning and construction. But before we begin, I'd like to thank everyone who has contributed to making this virtual training possible. This includes Georgia's Agency for Protected Areas, or APA, the Georgian National Tourism Administration, or GINTA, BP and CARE International, an excellent example of a successful public-private partnership, the USAID mission in Tbilisi, Georgia, Rudy D'Alessandro, our esteemed colleague at the National Park Service's Office of International Affairs, who has been a longtime supporter and champion of ITAP's work in Georgia. And of course, many thanks to our distinguished trainers, Andrea Sharon, Larry Walling, and Ray Bloomer, whom you'll be hearing from over the next 2 weeks. Finally, I'd like to offer a special word of gratitude to my friend and colleague, Pata Shanshashvili, who has worked tirelessly to bring this and other events to fruition as ITAP's in-country coordinator and technical advisor in Georgia. And with that, I'd like to turn the floor over to Pata. Thanks and enjoy the training.
Thank you, Ethan. Ქართულად მოგმართავთ სასიამოვნოა რომ ესწრებით ამ ჩვენ ღონისძიებას. თქვენ მოგესალმათ Ethan Taylor-ი, ჩვენი team leader-ი, რომელიც არის სწორედ ამ ამერიკის შეერთებული შტატების შინაგანი დეპარტამენტის საერთაშორისო ტექნიკური დახმარების პროგრამის მხრიდან. მეც ამ პროგრამაში მუშაობ, როგორც იცით. და მოგახსენებთ 2 სიტყვით, ეს არის პირველი შემთხვევა, როდესაც ჩვენ ამ ჩვენი პროგრამის ქვეშ სოდნის გადმოცემასთან ერთად, რომელიც საუკეთესო პრაქტიკაზე დაყრდნობილი, ჩვენ ასევე გვექნება უნარების ამაღლება, ანუ სავარჯიშოები ამ მიმართულებით. თემატიკა ყველამ კარგად იცით, ეს შეეხება უნივერსალურ დიზაინს ბილიკების და საინტერპრეტაციო მასალებს. დიდი მადლობა. Thank you. Andrea?
All right. So good morning, everybody. My name's Andrea, and I'm going to be talking about interpretation, the process of interpretation. What's it all about?
Andrea, ჩვენი ტრენერი ისაუბრებს სწორედ ამ ინტერპრეტაციის ნაწილზე. ვიწყებთ ხოლმე ინტერპრეტაციით, ბილიკების თემატიკა მოგვიანებით მოედინება. შემდეგ კვირაში.
So don't be intimidated by 7 sessions. They're all under an hour each. We'll hopefully get you off screen here and plenty of time to enjoy the rest of your evening. So I'm from Santa Fe, New Mexico. If you look at a map of the U.S., it's in the American West, just south of Denver. And I was lucky to have a career for 32 years with several agencies, including the National Park Service. I was a park ranger, an interpretive specialist, and I went to school in Colorado in the West. And the reason I mention this is I have a BS in environmental interpretation and cultural anthropology. And I always felt that interpretation did not necessarily receive the respect it deserved. So just for you to know, and I'm not sure of the situation in the university system in Georgia, but we have quite a few university programs to get you prepared to be an interpretive ranger in the field. In 2009, I retired after 32 years. It was my dream to continue with my photography. Little did I know the thing of international assistance existed. This is now my 5th assignment and my 2nd in Georgia. And so I enjoy being an artist, mainly a photographer, and I love traveling, volunteering, and I love being an advocate for protecting natural and cultural resources. So the train,
Andrea,
yes,
Andrea, can you make a little pause?
yeah, absolutely.
ანდრეამ გაგაცნო თავის თავი, წარმოშობით არის სანტა-ფედან, ამ მომენტში იმყოფება პენსიაზე, მუშაობდა სხვადასხვა სააგენტოებში, ამერიკის შეერთებული შტატების ეროვნული პარკების სამსახურის ჩათვლით, არის სპეციალიზირებული სწორედ ამ ინტერპრეტაციაზე, ამერიკის შეერთებულ შტატებში ეს საგანია, ისწავლება და ასე პროფესიონალი გზანდება ამ მიმართულებით. Thank you.
All right. So what we'd like to do is have you introduce yourself. And are we going to be able to unmute them, Ethan, or can they unmute themselves?
They should be able to unmute themselves on their end.
Okay.
ეხლა მოწვეული ხართ გაგვაცნოთ თქვენი თავი, დავიწყოთ აპას წარმომადგენლებით და დაასახელებთ თქვენ სახელი გვარი და შემდეგ უკვე რაც სად მუშაობთ, რას აკეთებთ, აი კითხვები აქ არის და აღწერეთ მოკლედ თქვენი კავშირი ამ თემატიკასთან, რაზეც ეხლა ვარ შეკრებილი. დავიწყოთ აპას წარმომადგენლებით.
So, Pata, would you mention the names and then they can go as you call them?
I started by agency. I'm inviting the upper folks first. დაცული ტერიტორიების სააგენტოს წარმომადგენლები. ვინც ხართ?
მოგესალმებით, მე ვარ გიორგი გოგინაშვილი, არქიტექტორი. ამჟამად მუშაობ დაცულ ტერიტორიებში არქიტექტორად და მაქვს შეკრება აღნიშნულ ბილიკებთან დაკავშირებით.
He was George Goginashvili. He's an architect, works for the Agency of Protected Areas and focusing on infrastructure facility design and development, including the design and development of the trails. Madloba. Shemdegi.
მოგესალმებით ყველას. მე გავაგრძელებ თუ არავინ არ
კი ბატონო, კი, შენ უნდა დაგეწყო ისე. ნატალია, სახელი გვარი ჯერ.
ნატო სულთანიშვილი, Agency of Protected Areas. I'm head of Planning and Development Division. კიდე რაღაც უნდა მეთქვა ხო, როგორ არის დაკავშირებული?
ამ თემატიკასთან.
თემატურად ინტერპრეტაცია რა თქმა უნდა დაკავშირებულია ჩვენს სამსახურთან, ვინაიდან განვითარების სამსახურის ფუნქციებში შედის საინტერპრეტაციო ბილიკების, სალაშქრო ბილიკების კეთილმოწყობა და მცირე ინფრასტრუქტურასთან ერთად გადაადგილების პროცესში, რა თქმა უნდა, ვიზიტორს საშუალება რომ მივცეთ ინფორმაციებით, ასე ვთქვათ, წაიკითხოს გზადაგზა და საინტერპრეტაციო საშუალებებით გავუმდიდროთ, როგორც ველზე ბილიკები, ასევე სხვათა შორის ვიზიტორთა ცენტრებში საგამოფენო სივრცეები.
Natalia, she's responsible for the planning and development division of the Agency of Protected Areas, and that's actually the operations division that operates all existing parks, including all programs that all definitely logically covers the interpretation and facility and trails development. შემდეგი Lagodekhi გადავიდეთ მაშინ აპადან თუ აღარავინ არის. უბრალოდ ცენტრალური აპარატიდან. Lagodekhi.
Hello, my name is Zaza. I'm visitor center specialist of Lagodekhi protected areas. My position is like I'm visitor center specialist here, and as the Nata Sultanshul mentioned, so in the future also here in our protected areas, like in the visitor center, also that they are agency protected areas they are going to renew, and in this process I'll be also to involve, and it can be also interesting for me and interesting also for my visitors because daily regime I have like a contact with them, and I'll be also proud with that to be like have a new visitor center here in Lagodekhi, and that can be very interesting for me and interesting also my visitors. Educational path, interpretation path, and some like hiking trails is already starting Lagodekhi protect areas, so they're running so well, nicely, and our visitors, they are very happy with that, and so they are very thankful. So thank you very much for this introduction.
Zaza, that's a quick question to you. So what is your connection to this pilot project with the BP Care and the Lagodekhi administration about that educational front country trail that is under development now. Are you connected to this work?
Yeah, sure. We are connected also in this project. Yes, it is because as you know, in Lagodekhi, let's run some like a path is still cutting the new cut path. As we have some of the project is finished already, some of it's already running direction to the Black Rock Lake, and we are involved in this process.
Thank you, Zaza.
Thank you very much.
Is your colleague here too from Lagodekhi?
I'm just me and no
All
one
right.
else.
Okay. Okay.
Thank
So
you.
then let's move to the CARE International. They again maybe start with them from the more headquarters people, and then we'll move to the contractors. CARE
Okay.
International.
Then maybe I will start and then,
Go ahead, please.
Good morning, good evening, everybody. And my name is George Glonti, George's first name. I have a background experience of more than 25 years of work in the field of social and economic development. And last year I have retired actually, and now I'm continuing kind of my pro bono support and services to CARE, to its projects. And that's why I'm here actually. And I have no experience or previous experience or never attended trainings specifically related to design of interpretive trails and the construction of such trails. So it will be very interesting for me to know something about that, so that quality of my services and support to CARE is improved. And I'm more meaningfully involved in this project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Beautifully stated. Beautifully stated.
Next one, please, from CARE International.
Hello. I am Sofika Chabashvili. I am a financial officer of CARE Caucasus, and I am involved in this project as an administrative and communication manager. This is my first experience in direction of the trails, and but however, I am very interested in this direction and will try to get much knowledge and information during this training. I think that during this training, I will gain knowledge about the main aspects of arranging eco-path and about new approaches in this field. This knowledge will be useful for me in the planning process of this project and similar projects in the future.
Thank you, Sofika. Next one, please.
Hi everyone, this is Ketevan Keti Kartvalishvili. I'm Resource Development Coordinator at CARE Caucasus. I was involved with the Lagodekhi administration in designing the development of this proposal for this pilot project. And similarly to my colleagues, I don't have particular experience in interpretation of trails. However, I'm really interested in eco-education, conservation, and I think I'm really excited and eager to see like what are some approaches that we can use in the design and reflect in our in the current project or future project. Yeah, thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Ketevan. Can you kindly invite your contractors to start introducing themselves? You know better than I do their names. Luca and others, please.
Luca, okay, I'm not familiar actually with but yeah, they will introduce themselves.
Okay. Do anyone hear me?
Yes, go ahead,
Okay.
please.
So I'm Luka Tkanaladze. Hello. Unfortunately, I don't have my camera on because I have some kind of technical problem. So what about me? I'm a co-founder of the organization Nature Conservation Georgia. And I have BS in biology in Ilia State University. And what brought me to this project is that I think we are the final team who will be making like a final design of the path. And so, you know, I have a high expectations from you from these meetings. So I would like to thank you so much for being all here. So that's it.
Well, thank you, Luca. Please kindly invite your team members.
I would like to invite my colleagues, Elena Nikuradze, Nino Toriashvili, and Sandra Gitanov.
Okay, I will continue. My name is Elena Nikuradze, and I'm financial advisor in Nature Conservation Georgia. So as organization, we are really eager to acquire knowledge regarding the trail projects, interpretation of the trail projects. Since we are the primary focus of our organization is awareness raising and education, I think that it will be really important impact for us. This project this training session will have really important impact. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please.
Hello, my name is Sandro Gitanov, and I can turn on my camera. I am also co-founder of the young organization Nature Conservation Georgia, and also I am scientist in Tbilisi Zoological Park. And in both of these organizations are working for up some education to children and not only children. I am also I have also master degree to ecology in Ilia State University also, and I have never working such kind of work and to make some pests for children in nature, and I want to have more information and some more experience to make this better than now.
Thank you. Thank you. And who else from your team?
Hello, I'll be the last one from the NCG organization. Hi, hello, I'm Nino Toriashvili. I'm a team member of NCG, Nature Conservation Georgia. My working area is botanics, and I'm interested in environmental studies. And in our organization, from the previous projects, we've done several. We haven't get any specific trainings in this subject, but we have done some several kinds of works for interpretive trail project, not trail, but other kinds of materials, which was for awareness raising. And I think this training will be very helpful for us to improve our services for our social and for our society in the future.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
And the next one, please, from your team, or that's
no, that's our team.
Okay, thank you. Then please, Tamar Mysuradze, the representative of the GNTA, National Tourism Administration, introduce yourself, please.
Hello, as Mr. Pata mentioned, I am Tamar from Georgia National Tourism Board. I represent Product Development Division, and we are dealing with the hiking trail last 5 years. So we elaborated hiking trail system, and nowadays it's used all kind of administrative organs. So all the trails are marked with this system. Mainly what GNTA does is marking hiking trails, but last year we elaborated ecotourism strategy, and one of the highlights and the needs is interpretation trails. So I'm really expecting to learn a lot from this training and seeking to a new knowledge. Thanks, Pata, inviting us once again to this training and awaiting our new news next week.
Thank you. Thank you, Tamar. Tamar Dakhidze, can you introduce yourself?
Hello, as Mr. Pata already told, I'm Tamar Gakhidze, and I work for GNTA under Tamar Maisura's supervision in the Department of Tourist Product and Small-Scale Infrastructure, Tourist Infrastructure Development. Well, last year I had the great, it was my great pleasure to attend a course of orientation, fundamentals of protected areas, integrated governments and government, and there were some specific fields that we participants were mostly interested in. One of them was this interpretation, and that's why Mr. Pata invited us to participate, and I do hope and I'm sure I will gain some more insights in this direction, because as Tamara mentioned, we are planning to develop some kind of ecotourism interpretation like trails, and it will be useful for us to get this knowledge.
Thank you, Tamara. ვინ დარჩა კიდე ვისაც თავი არ წარმოუდგენია? დარჩა ვინმე?
დიახ, ბატონო პატა მე.
დიახ, ძანეთ.
Hello, I'm Nina Tigishvili. I work as a project manager in the Georgian Ecotourism Association. About my background, I have completed the practice of Trans-Caucasian Trail in Zesho on the arrangement of trails according to the American standard. Within the framework of various projects, I have worked also both on the preparation of interpretive materials for trails and the development of road management plans. Also, I think the training will give me a comprehensive information about the current trends in interpretation and all the necessary steps in general. And for my part, I will be an active participant of training, and I hope also I will use my this novel knowledge I have received during these trainings. Thank you for this possibility.
Thank you, Nino. In addition, let me mention that Nino is representing one of the very famous associations. That's an ecotourism association, which is very active, giving hard time to the governments and again helping them to do a good job. So that's a kind of watchdog and technical assistance type of non-profit. Vindar Chakidev. Machine Anna, you can go from chain tower. Anna them Ani Shens with a bush.
Greetings, everyone. I'm Anna Khumarashvili. I'm the intern of this program, and I'm also working for ABBA. And I'm very thankful and grateful for this opportunity. Thank you a lot.
Thank you, Ani.
Hello, everyone. I hope you can hear me first time. Sorry for keeping you wait. My name is Ani Duchashvili. I'm working for US DOI-ITAP National Park and Ecotourism Program as an assistant. And I have an experience working in the Agency of Protected Areas. That's why I was involved in Lagodekhi, in arrangement of trails in Lagodekhi. So I'm familiar with this project, and this presentation and this information will be really useful for me. And thank you for this opportunity, and looking forward for the new information.
Thank you, Ani. So Andrea, we're done with the introductions. Please
all right, wonderful. Well, it's so wonderful to see all of you, and also all the young faces and all the women. Good for you. What I'd like to do here, now that we finished on the introductions, is why won't my screen? Okay, so just very, very briefly, especially there's such a wide variety of background here. I'm just going to give a very, very brief overview of the early conservation movement. Why are we where we're at now? And if you've heard of John Muir before in the United States, he was in Yosemite National Park in the late 1800s. And he really brought to the attention the need for conservation. He was out in nature all the time. He wrote prolifically. globally, and he's really become known as one of the first people to use the word interpretation. And in the quote here, you say, when people say you're an interpreter, they go, well, what language do you speak? And basically he's saying, I speak the language of the rocks and the flood and the storm. And so I use that as a basis to start, because even back then, people were talking about interpreting nature. Then in Rocky Mountain National, go ahead. I'm sorry, Pata, you're going to have to remind me about stopping.
I'm a bit hesitant, but again, this is very important piece to still help some few people with some problems with English. So, ისტორიას ყვებით, პირველ რიგში ვახსენეთ ჯონ მური, რომელიც არის დამფუძნებელი მამა ამერიკული ტიპის, ასე ვთქვათ, დაცული ტერიტორიების ეროვნული პარკების კერძოდ და ისევე არის სწორედ ამ ტერმინის შემომტანი, რასაც ინტერპრეტაცია ქვია. მანამდე ინტერპრეტაცია ყოველს თარგმანი ეგონა. და როდესაც ეკითხებოდნენ რა ენას თარგმნიო, ამბობდა რომ მე ვთარგმნი ბუნების ენას გითარგმნით თქვენო, თვლიდა ცალ-ცალკე რა თქმა უნდა ბუნებრივ ფენომენებს. Thank you, Andre.
All right. So Enos Mills gave nature walks. He gave some of the first guided nature walks in Rocky Mountain National Park, which is not very far from Denver, Colorado, which is a big urban city even in the 1800s. So people would come to Rocky Mountain and they would flock to him to learn about the plants and the animals and the trees. The other person, and someone you should know for sure, is Freeman Tilden, and he is called the father of interpretation. And Freeman Tilden wrote several books that should be in the park library there. They're very good resources. And basically, he was a journalist. And in the 1950s, the National Park Service hired him to go to the national parks and see what's going on.
ძალიან მნიშვნელოვანია ვახსენოთ ასე Freeman Tilden-ი, რომელიც არის თვითონ ამ ინტერპრეტაციის სულ სხვა სიმაღლეზე ამყვანი, შეიძლება ითქვას პროფესიონალური საფუძვლის ჩამყრელი, იყო ჟურნალისტი და რომელიც ემსახურებოდა ეროვნულ პარკების სამსახურს ამ მიმართულებით. Thank you.
All right. So as a journalist, he was a good observer. And he would go to the parks and see what the rangers were doing, see what the visitors were doing, and came up with some principles on how best to approach the visitors.
ბატონი Freeman-ი იყო ძალიან კარგი დამკვირვებელი, თვითონ არ იყო სპეციალისტი კონსერვაციის, მაგრამ კარგი დაკვირვებდა როგორ მუშაობდნენ რეინჯერები, რა იყო შინაარსი ამ საქმიანობის და სწორედ ცდილობდა ეს ყველაფერი ვიზიტორებისთვის გასაგებ ენაზე გადმოეთარგმნა, ასე ვთქვათ. Thank you.
And then I can't pronounce his name, but the Polish botanist that came to Lagodekhi. Can you pronounce his name for me, Pata, please?
Ludwig Mlokosevich, იცით ეს ყველა, ვინც იყო დამფუძნებელი ამ საქართველოს უძველესი დაცული ტერიტორიის ლაგოდეხის.
So he should be honored for his role in your country and in your park and what he did.
თქვენ იცით ამ ადამიანის შესახებ, ამიტომ ბევრ დროს არ დავხარჯავთ.
And then lastly, I just want to pay homage to the John Muir of Georgia. When I first met Pata, that's how he was introduced to me. So thank you, Pata, for all you do and for carrying on with this training, which I was a part of 12 years ago and happy to continue with.
Thank you, Andrea.
All right, so basically there's a steps to interpretation. And I'd like to go through those, and it's kind of going to be the basis for what we do from here on.
ეხლა ჩვენ ჩამოვთვლით იმ ნაბიჯებს, რა გზასაც გადის ინტერპრეტაციის პროცესი და იგივე ნაბიჯები იქნება საფუძველი ჩვენი სწავლების, რასაც გავვლით აი ამ ტრეინინგის დროს.
Okay. So through interpretation there is understanding.
პირველ რიგში უნდა ვთქვათ, რომ სწორედ ინტერპრეტაციის გზით მიიღწევა გაგება, აღქმა.
Through understanding there is appreciation.
სწორედ გაგებას მოსდევს აღტოვანება.
And through appreciation, there was stewardship, which is preservation.
სწორედ ამ აღტოვანებით, ამ ემოციური, ინტელექტუალური, ასე ვთქვათ, ესეთი გადაკვეთის შედეგად დგება მდგომარეობა, როდესაც ჩვენ მზად ვართ აქტიურად ვიმოქმედოთ, ვუპატრონოთ, მივხედოთ ამ საგანძურს.
So our goal is to make sure our visitors have a sense of stewardship toward the resource.
სწორედაც ინტერპრეტაციის მიზანი არის, რომ საბოლოოდ ვიზიტორები არა მარტო გულშემატკივრები იყვნენ, არამედ ასევე იყვნენ ისეთი ადამიანები, ვისაც სურვილი ექნება იყოს პატრონი ამ საგანძურს.
So we protect what we understand and we appreciate.
ჩვენ ვიცავთ იმას, რაც ჩვენ გვესმის და რაც რითიც ვართ აღტოვანები.
So those of you that have formed this organization on Nature Conservation Georgia, you must be passionate about what you do in order to keep you going and to encourage people to join your organization and, more importantly, be an advocate for nature. And so unless we understand and appreciate something, we usually do not have a desire to protect it.
თქვენ ყველას აი აქ მყოფებს და განსაკუთრებით კონტრაქტორს მიმართავს სწორედ ასეთი ადამიანები ხართ და უნდა იყოთ რადგან ამ საქმეს აკეთებთ.
So looking at the process of interpretation, there's three main parts. One is the visitor.
ვიზიტორ როდესაც ჩვენ საუბრობთ ინტერპრეტაციაზე, აქ უნდა კარგად გავერკვეთ რასთან გვაქვს საქმე. სხვადასხვა შემადგენელთან. პირველი ეს არის რა თქმა უნდა ვიზიტორი. სუბიექტი, ვინც არის თავარი, ვისაც ვაკეთებთ ამას.
And we need to know about our visitor. Are they repeat? Are they regulars to the park? Do they have special needs? Do they come as an individual or a family?
ვიზიტორის შესახებ ჩვენ უნდა გქონდეს ინფორმაცია. არიან ისინი პირველად, არიან მეორე თუ შემდეგ არიან ბრუნდებიან კვლავ, რა ცოდნა აქვთ, რა გამოცდილება აქვთ, როგორი სოციალურ-ეკონომიკური სამყაროდან მოდიან, რა ინტერესები აქვთ, ასევე ეთნიკური მხარე, სქესი, მათი უნარები, ასე ვთქვათ, არსებობს რაღაც ლიმიტები თუ არა, ჯგუფურობასთან კავშირი, ასე ვთქვათ, უყვართ პატარა ჯგუფი, დიდი ჯგუფი, კიდე განსაკუთრებულ მოპყრობას საჭიროებენ თუ სხვა. ანუ ეს არის მაქსიმალურად აუცილებელი, რომ ასეთი ინფორმაცია გქონდეს.
So the second element is the resource.
შემდეგი რა თქმა უნდა ეს არის თვითონ ბუნებრივი სამყარო, კულტურული სამყარო, ანუ რესურსი, როგორც ჩვენ ვეძახით.
So we have natural resources and cultural resources.
რესურსები, როდესაც ვამბობ რესურსი, გულისხმობ ორივეს, ბუნებრივს და კულტურულ რესურსს.
And hopefully you're experts about your site and knowing the plants and the animals, how the ecosystems work together, what sort of research has happened.
რა თქმა უნდა, როდესაც მაგალითად ბუნებრივ რესურსებს საუბრობთ, ეს გულისხმობს ყველაფერს, ეკოსისტემურ, ლანდშაფტურ დონეს, სახეობებს, ასოციაციებს, ხომ იმ ცოდნას, რაც გვაქვს მეცნიერულ სიღრმე, თქვათ რა ასე ვთქვათ, თეთრელაქები გვაქვს თუ არ გვაქვს ცოდნაში და რა თქმა უნდა, პიროვნულ გამოცდილებასაც ამ რესურსებთან მიმართებაში.
And most important is your personal experience with the resource. Do you get out there and hike? Do you observe through the season changes? Do you see the visitors interacting? You need to have your own personal knowledge and experience with the resource.
რა თქმა უნდა, რესურსებსაც საუბრობთ და როგორც ვახსენეთ, პიროვნული გამოცდილება არის გადამწყვეტი, იმიტომ რომ ეს არის სწორედ პირადი აღმოჩენა, რაც ხდება სწორედ იქ ყოფნით. და პირდაპირ შეხებაში ის იქნება იქ ფეხით გადაადგილებასთან კავშირში თუ სხვა რამე აქტივობასთან, სხვადასხვა სეზონზე თან კავშირში, სხვადასხვა ასე ვთქვათ, ბუნებრივ პროცესებთან კავშირში და ასე შემდეგ.
So where does interpretation fit in this triage? And it's the bridge. It's the bridge that gaps the visitor to the resource.
და როგორც ხედავთ ამ სქემაზე, სწორედ ინტერპრეტაციის ადგილი არის შუაში, რომელიც ახდენს ამ დაკავშირებას ვიზიტორის რესურსთან.
Ways of defining interpretation, the one I just showed you is more of a graphic. If you're more technical and mathematical, here's a formula we call the interpretive formula. So KR is knowledge of the resource.
აქ გვაქვს ახლა ფორმულის სახით იგივე მოსაზრება წარმოდგენილი, როგორც ხედავთ აქ პირველი შემადგენელი ეს არის თორე ცოდნა ამ რესურსების შესახებ, ინფორმაცია რესურსების შესახებ.
And we talked about ways you get knowledge of the resource, but you need to have knowledge of the visitor.
და როგორც თქვით, ასევე მნიშვნელოვანი არის ამ ფორმულაში, რომ გქონდეს ინფორმაცია და ცოდნა სუბიექტზე, ვიზიტორზე, მათ შესახებ მაქსიმალური ინფორმაცია.
And then appropriate techniques, that's the AT. The appropriate techniques are how you're going to use your toolkit of interpretive skills to get that message across to the visitor.
და სწორედ შემდეგ უკვე გვაქვს უნიშნულოვანი არის სწორედ ის საინტერპრეტაციო ტექნიკა, მეთოდოლოგია, საშუალებები, რა გზითაც ჩვენ უნდა მოვახდინოთ ასეთი სინთეზი, დაკავშირება რესურსისა ამ ვიზიტორთან.
So think of the goal if you're doing an interpretive program or talking to a visitor at the desk or out on the trail. You want to provide an interpretive opportunity. We don't actually interpret. We provide the catalyst for the visitor to have their own internal interpretation, because that's going to be different for every visitor.
რა თქმა უნდა, აქ ძალიან მნიშვნელოვანი საკითხი ახლა საუბრობთ, ეს არის ის, რომ სწორედ ჩვენი მოქმედება კი ვეძახით ამას ინტერპრეტაციას, მაგრამ ფაქტიურად ჩვენ კატალიზებას ვახდენთ პროცესისა, როდესაც ვიზიტორი თვითონ ახდენს აღმოჩენას. აი ამ რესურსებსაც საკუთარ პირად აღმოჩენს.
So if you have a child, their experience is limited. If you have an adult, their life experience is more extensive. If they're a woman, if they're a man, if they're from a different country, they're going to bring a lot of their cultural things with them, and everyone is most likely going to have a different experience. So if you think of you providing that opportunity, you will be more successful.
რა თქმა უნდა, აქ აი ამ ცოდნას ვიზიტორის შესახებ გადამწყვეტი მნიშვნელობა აქვს, იმიტომ რომ კატალიზება პატარა ბავშვისთვის სხვაგვარია, თქვათ ზრდასრული მამაკაცისთვის სხვანაირი, გარკვეული რაღაცა შეზღუდული საშუალებების მქონე ადამიანისთვის სხვანაირი და ასე შემდეგ. ანუ ეს კატალიზება დაფუძნებულია ვიზიტორის შესახებ ცოდნაზე.
And then the formal definition of interpretation through the U.S. National Park Service, again, it's providing that opportunity for the audience to make their own intellectual and emotional connections.
ეს არის ფორმალური, ოფიციალური დეფინიცია ამ ინტერპრეტაციისა, ამ ამერიკის შეერთებული შტატების ეროვნული პარკების სამსახურისა, სადაც ხაზგასმულია, რომ ეს სწორედაც ინტერპრეტაცია არის ის საშუალება, ის შესაძლებლობა ვიზიტორისთვის, რომ ის დაუკავშირდეს რესურსს პირდაპირ დაუშალოთ, როგორც ინტელექტუალურად, ასე ემოციურად.
And if you give too much intellectual information, too many facts and figures, there's no opportunity for the emotional. And so you want to make sure that you have a good balance between these two. And that comes with time and practice.
რა თქმა უნდა, აქ მნიშვნელოვანი არის საკითხია, რომ ეს ბალანსი ამ ემოციასა და ინტელექტუალურ პროცესს შორის იყოს დაცული. თუ ინტელექტუალური პროცესი თუ იქნება დომინანტური, მაშინ ბუნებრივი ემოციებს აღარ დაუტოვებს ადგილს, რაც არ იქნება სრულყოფილი, სამხრივი იქნება. ამიტომ ჩვენი მიზანი ეს იყოს ბალანსირებული. ინტელექტუალური დაკავშირება და ემოციური დაკავშირება.
So now we're looking at actually doing interpretation, and there's two major categories that it's divided into: personal services and non-personal services.
ეხლა უშუალოდ ვისაუბროთ თუ რას ინსტრუმენტები აქვს ასე ვთქვათ ამ ინტერპრეტაციას. ეს არის თავისებურად განმარტებული, ეს როდესაც აი პიროვნულ მომსახურებაზეა გაგებული, პიროვნულ შესაძლებლობაზე და რომელიც არ არის მანდ-მაინც ცალკეული პიროვნების შესაძლებლობაზე აგებული.
So looking at the personal services, obviously that involves a visitor and a staff person, whether it's a ranger, a volunteer, a student docent, or whatever, but it's one-on-one.
პერსონალური მომსახურება გულისხმობს ისეთ ინტერპრეტაციას, როდესაც ვიზიტორს პირდაპირ საშუალება აქვს უკავშირისა თვითონ აი იმ ინტერპრეტატორთან. ეს იქნება მოხალისე, ეს იქნება შტატის წარმომადგენელი, რეინჯერი თუ ნებისმიერ თანამშრომელი პარკის.
Personal services tends to be the most popular with visitors, but it's also the most expensive.
რა თქმა უნდა, ეს პერსონალური ინტერპრეტაცია პოპულარულია, მაგრამ მოიხსენებათ რესურსები შეზღუდულია, საკმაოდ ძვირია, ამის შესაძლებლობა არ არის იმდენი, რომ ყველა ვიზიტორს ასე მოემსახუროთ.
So obviously if you have staff, you are paying them and you need to train them, you need to supervise them, but it does tend to be the most popular.
ნუ როგორც ვთქვით უკვე იმის გამო რომ ეს ორმხრივია, გაღრმავების საშუალებას იძლევა, რა თქმა უნდა, რჩება ეს ყველაზე პოპულარულად.
So there's a variety of things here, from formal talks to demonstrations on costumed interpretation. I don't know if you do much of that in your country, but in the U.S.
Not yet. Historically,
Okay.
enactments not in place yet.
Okay.
რა თქმა უნდა, ეს უამრავ საშუალებებს იძლევა. იგი თუნდაც ისტორიის ინტერპრეტაციის დროს, როდესაც ეს ასეთი გაცოცხლება ხდება ისტორიის, გნებავთ თვითონ ამ ჩაცმულობით, გნებავთ იმ ატრიბუტიკით, რაც იმ ისტორიულ მომენტს ახასიათებს, გნებავთ თვითონ მოქმედებით. და რაც მონაწილეობის და ინტერაქტიულობის საშუალებას იძლევა.
Yeah, so costume interpretation is more advanced. It takes not only your basic skills of interpretation, it also takes somewhat of an acting ability to make it work well and to keep it authentic.
რა თქმა უნდა, ეს აი სწორედ აი ესეთი ისტორიული მოვლენების აღდგენის ისეთი გზა, როდესაც უკავშირდება ეს ეგრეთ წოდებული კოსტუმირებულ, ასე ვთქვათ, პროცესს, ეს არ არის მარტო ორალური პროცესი, როდესაც სიტყვიერად ვამბობთ, არა, ეს არის მოქმედება, ანუ აქტიორულ უნარებსაც მოითხოვს.
And there's a fine line between costumed interpretation and entertainment. And so we're not Disneyland, you know, we want to keep this authentic. So it definitely is a more advanced skill.
აქ ძალიან მნიშვნელოვანი საკითხი არის ის, რომ ჩვენ არ გადავიჭრათ ამ ასე ვთქვათ, აი როლების შესრულების დროს რაღაც გადაჭარბებულად აქტიორულ ასე ვთქვათ სამყაროში, ჩვენი მიზანი არის, რომ ავთენტურობა გადმოვცეთ. ეს ავთენტურობა არ დავკარგოთ. ეს არის ჩვენი თავარი მიზანი. აი ამ ასეთი ისტორიული აქტიორული აღდგენების დროს, როდესაც ისტორიას აღვადგენთ ასეთი გზით.
Okay, now switching to non-personal services.
ეხლა განვიხილოთ მეორე შესაძლებლობა, რომელიც არის არაპიროვნულ ასე ვთქვათ მომსახურებაზე აგებული.
And this is what we will be, our goal for this project is a non-personal service, being the...
ჩვენი მიმდინარე ეს ტრენინგია ზუსტად რასაც ახლა თქვენ ესწრებით, სწორედ აი ამაზეა ფოკუსირებული, აი ამ non-personal-ზე, მის იმ საშუალებებზე, რაც აი ამ ასეთ ინტერპრეტაციასთან არის დაკავშირებული.
Since I've retired, the whole evolution of cell phones has come about. So personally, I don't have experience in that area, but it's becoming very popular. And it might not be a part of the first phase, but it's something we might want to think about in the future for our exhibits.
მოგეხსენებათ ახალი ტექნოლოგიები ახალ შესაძლებლობებს იძლევა, ამის მაგალითია მაგალითად იგივე ჩვენი პერსონალური ტელეფონები, რომლის საშუალებითაც სწორედ ეს არაპერსონალური შეიძლება ითქვას პერსონალურსაც კი მიუახლოვდება, მაგრამ ერთ-ერთი მაგალითია.
So getting to Wayside exhibits, we're going to cover this in more detail on Friday, but sometimes you hear of a Wayside exhibit as a ranger on a stick.
ეხლა რა თქმა უნდა ეს არის სწორედ ის საინტერპრეტაციო დაფები, რაზეც ჩვენ განსაკუთრებული აქცენტი გვექნება მათ ტიპებზე და სხვადასხვა დანიშნულებაზე, ჩვენ ხშირად ესეთი იუმორით ვამბობთ ხოლმე, რომ ეს დაფები, საინტერპრეტაციო დაფები ადგილზე, ეს არის რეინჯერი, რომელიც იქ არის ჩაბეტონებული, ასე ვთქვათ, ჩაანკერებული ადგილზე.
So Wayside exhibit doesn't get retirement, doesn't get vacation, doesn't need a lunch break.
Ну, რა თქმა უნდა, ეს იუმორით ისევე ამ საინტერპრეტაციო დაფა არ იღლება, არ ჭირდება ასე თქვა დასვენება, შეებულება და ასე შემდეგ, ხო? დღე-დღე არის იქ ადგილი.
Nor it needs salary.
No, we need still maintenance. That's still salary. Andrea?
All right, so we're going to take a 10-minute break, and this is a chance if you have some questions. Just get up and stretch, go get a coffee or whatever, and we'll be back in 10 minutes.
10 წუთიანი შესვენება გამოაცხადა ხა ჩვენმა ტრენერმა, შეგიძლიათ რა თქმა უნდა არ გამოერთოთ, დატოვეთ ეს ჩართულები, უბრალოდ კამერები შეგიძლიათ ჩააქროთ, ადგეთ ფეხზე, ამოძრაოთ ასე თქვით სისხლი, მოიფიქროთ კითხვები, რაც უკვე მოისმინეთ, შეიძლება დაწეროთ, უკვე მოემზადოთ, რომ შემდგომში კითხვების დასმის საშუალების დროს აღარ დაგჭირდეთ ბევრი ფიქრი, ხო? რაც უკვე მოისმინეთ იმასთან დაკავშირებით. მადლობა, შესვენება 10 წუთი, არ დავაგვიანოთ.
Are there any questions in the chat?
No, not yet.
I don't see any, Andrea, not yet.
Okay, great.
Andrea.
Yes.
So can you see this?
No, my screen's on PowerPoint.
Oh, you.
We see that. We see that.
What is
QR code.
Stop sharing for just a minute.
Okay, hold on a second. Okay. Oh, that's my first experience with animation. Okay, so now we're getting into skills, and we're going to talk about interpretive themes. And a theme is a single sentence that expresses a meaning.
ეხლა ვიწყებთ უშუალო ტექნოლოგიაზე საუბარს. პირველი საკითხი ეს არის თემა. თემა ეს არის ასე რომ ერთ წინადადებაში გადმოცემული შინაარსი.
So you're going to hear a lot about tangible and intangible.
ეს იქნება დაკავშირებული ძალიან დიდწილად სწორედაც ხელშესახებ და არახელშესახებ ბუნებასთან, ამა თუ იმ საკითხის თუ რესურსის.
And I'd like to introduce the term universal concepts.
ეხლა მინდა შემოვიტანო ტერმინი უნივერსალური კონცეფცია.
So universal concepts, it doesn't matter what country you're from, what culture you're from. They're things that we as human beings all share. Lost.
უნივერსალურობა ეს არის ფაქტიურად ის ფასეულობა, რომელიც არის ამაღლებული და ეროვნულ თავისებურებებზე, იმ გარკვეულ განსხვავებებზე, რაც ადამიანებს შორის არის და უკავშირდება საყოველთაო ადამიანურ ბუნებას.
Happiness,
როგორც არის ბედნიერება,
good health, bad health,
ჯანმრთელობის საკითხები,
families, things of that nature.
ოჯახი და ასე შემდეგ.
So think of the universal as covering all of humanity. So an interpretive theme we talked about, it's a single sentence that expresses meaning.
როგორც თქვით უკვე, სწორედაც ეს თემა არის სწორედაც ერთი წინადადებით გადმოცემული შინაარსი.
So it's a link from the tangible resource to its intangible meanings.
ეს სწორედ აი ესეთი თემა აკავშირებს უშუალოდ აი კონკრეტულ რესურსს, რომელსაც ხელშესახების სახე აქვს, არახელშესახებ ფორმასთან, მის შინაარსობრივ და ასე ვთქვათ, აბსტრაქტულ დამოკიდებულებასთან.
So here's an example. This is a topic which sometimes people refer to as a theme, but remember, a theme is a complete sentence.
ამ შემთხვევაში ჩვენ ახლა განვიხილოთ საკითხი.
So the topic is the power of water.
საკითხი შეიძლება იყოს წყლის ძალა, წყლის ასე ვთქვათ, სიმძლავრე.
So I think of the Grand Canyon right away in the United States, the incredible erosion that has happened over time.
ამ შემთხვევაში ჩემ გონებაში ასე ვთქვათ, ასოცირდება დიდ კანიონთან, რომელიც არის მაგალითი, სწორედ აი წყლის ძალით, ამ წარმოუდგენელი მასშტაბის ეროზიისა, რაც რის საშუალებითაც ეს კანიონი გაჩნდა.
And I'm sure in your parks, and I know Lagodekhi has waterfalls and fast-moving streams, so that whole thing of the power of water might be a theme applicable to your site.
კონკრეტულად ეხლა თუ წარმოვიდგენდი ლაგოდეხს, მე ვიცი რომ ლაგოდეხში ჰიდროგრაფიული ქსელი ძალიან საინტერესოა, სწორედ ესეთი მუხვია, ძლავრი მთის მდინარეები მოჩქებს, ასე არის ჩანჩქერები და ასე შემდეგ, ანუ ეს თემა არ არის უცხო ლაგოდეხის შემთხვევაში.
Okay, so here would be an actual theme statement that the power of water to carve, smooth, and continuously reshape this landscape, that provides opportunities for us to marvel at how a seemingly simple liquid can play such a profound role in the landscape.
ეს ძალიან პოეტური ფრაზა იყო, მაგრამ საუბარია სწორედ წყლის ძალაზე, თუ როგორ შეუძლია წყალს, რა ენერგია აქვს, როგორ შეუძლია ასე ვთქვათ, გამოკვეთოს კლდე, მისცეს ფორმა, საოცარი ასე ვთქვათ, სახე კონდეს, ძალიან ძლავრი, ასე ვთქვათ, დამანგრეველიც და ასევე ძალიან ნაზი და ასე ვთქვათ, სარკისავით ამრეკლავი გარშემოყოფი, ასე ვთქვათ, პეიზაჟის.
So another topic would be fire in nature. And I don't know.
შემდეგი საკითხი შეიძლება იყოს ცეცხლი, ანუ ბუნებრივი ცეცხლი, ასე ვთქვათ, ბუნებაში არსებული ეკოსისტემის სახასიათო ცეცხლი, ასე ვთქვათ.
Are wildfires a problem in Georgia, Pato?
At some extent, yes. And becoming more and more because of climate change.
Mostly
Right.
in eastern part.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
I said mostly in eastern part, like
Eastern part.
steps of eastern.
Okay. Yeah, well, in the US, it's a big problem. And this year, especially in New Mexico, we had record-breaking fires as far as acreage. So it's a very important issue for us in the national parks. So fire is a natural process that causes life out of death and provides insight into tangible and intangible loss and renewal. All right, what do we have here? Is this a tangible?
ეხლა მაგალითად, რასაც ხედავთ ეს არის ხელშესახები?
It's both tangible and intangible, I guess.
Well, we're going to talk about intangible next, but let's talk about tangibles. Who wants to add to the list?
რამე ესე თქვათ ასეთ ხელშესახებ აი ამ საკითხს ვარ მიუმატებდით. ეს დროშა ერთი კი ბატონო, კიდევ რამე ხომ არ მოგდით თავში რაც შეიძლება იყოს. მაგალითად.
So I see red and white.
აქ ხედავთ ჩვენ თეთრს და წითელს.
Red and white, like cross.
ასევე ჯვარს ხედავთ.
Maybe textile you can touch, I know.
Yeah.
Right.
Like shape of tangible.
Is stick?
The flagpole, yes.
Yeah.
Flagpole.
Yeah.
I am დროშას
And clouds maybe.
ასეთ მდგომარეობაში დროშას რა აჩენებს?
So the sky with the clouds. Okay, now list some intangibles.
Oh, well, it's a faith. Motherland, faith, because it's it's Christian country, etc.
Wind is tangible.
Wind is tangible.
This is my question to you, but if the flag stays this way because of wind, presence of the wind.
Emotions, especially if you see your flag abroad, like in other countries.
So interpret to me, what is the symbolism? What are the crosses? There's two types of crosses, the big one in the middle and the four on the side. I don't know about your flag, so interpret to me.
Yeah, it's a long history. So Georgia is a Christian country, and it fought a lot to preserve its Christianity, and in many cases it united nation to stay against many of enemies over the centuries, especially of Muslim invasions, others as well. So it symbolizes our kind of adherence to Christianity and the kind of the sacrifices which our nation gave to it and to its homeland. Yeah.
Thank you.
In short.
And why are there four smaller crosses?
That I don't know.
Anyone else?
It's an old banner, if you wish, or old flag, which was used by different kind of kings or queens during the different wars, and this flag was kind of in front of our whatever.
Okay, why red and white? Anyone know why those colors were selected?
Yeah, I remember my kid learning about the symbols. White represents like one of them represents wisdom, and another kind of purity. Yeah.
And the red?
Wisdom and purity.
Okay. Yeah, in the U.S., the red is blood, the sacrifice that people have made to protect our freedoms and our democracy. So, okay, why are we not advancing here?
There is one more tangible thing there.
Yes.
We have not mentioned. It's a rope, which which attaches flag to the pole.
Okay, so using the flag as an example, I think that's a universal concept. Almost every culture and country has their own flag, and it's usually very, very symbolic of their history and their beliefs. Now, another thing I think is probably universal is love. And here we have a bride and a groom, I'm assuming, And so list some of the tangibles. Come on, you other folks out there. I know you're still awake. What are some tangibles?
აქტიურად ჩავერთოთ, აბა ჩამოთვალოთ
Rings.
რას ხედავთ ხელშესახებ. კარგია. Hands, rings, and
Some flowers.
Flowers, yeah.
And is this tradition a part of your culture?
Well, I mean,
No, not
question
that
is
way,
about-
not that way actually. So
For wearing a wedding ring?
Yeah, it's traditional.
Yes,
yeah.
it's
it's
traditional.
traditional now, but I'm sure that many years ago it was kind of not like really. It's kind of Western.
I see. Okay. Okay. So let's list some intangibles.
Love.
Love.
Maybe future family.
Future family. Well, let's change the scenario. What if one of the hands was dark colored and one of the hands was light colored? Would that change the intangibles?
No.
No? Okay.
Why should it?
Okay. What if one of the hands was a man and the other hand was a man? Or one of the hands was a female and the other hand was a female?
Well,
I think it depends on the observer itself. So, because some people are unfortunately racist or homophobic, so it depends on the observer itself.
It's
So
about marriage. It's not legal like in Georgia.
So it's political.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's my point, that the intangible and tangibles can change depending upon, what we see as the tangibles, what we interpret, where we are in time and space, what country we might be in. Like you said, it's illegal in some countries. So I guess my point is that to be universal and to have these cross-cultural things is just something we want to take into account. And I'm not saying these are examples we have to use. I'm just using them, the flag and the symbol of marriage, as something that crosses universal concepts.
ამ შემთხვევაში აქცენტი ისევ კეთდება იმ გაგებაზე ამ უნივერსალურობის. ამ შემთხვევაში კონკრეტულად ამ ორ მაგალითს ამ ხრივ უბრალოდ ხოდ მაგალითის მნიშვნელობა ქონდა.
Okay, so now we have a group exercise. We've understood about tangibles, we've understood about intangibles, and now I give you two choices here. Because of the nature of our classroom, we're in different places, we don't have the physical object. But I've selected two.
Wait. ეხლა ჩვენ ვიწყებთ საუბარს ჩვენ სავარჯიშოზე, როდესაც უნარებზე იქნება საუბარი და საჭირო იქნება ჯგუფებად გაყოფა. ეს ჯგუფებად გაყოფა ფიზიკურად არ იქნება, იქნება ელექტრონულად, ხო? Andrea?
Okay, so the two objects here, and picture we have physically something tangible in front of us, but one is the mountain goat, and I did a little bit of research, and I'm understanding that this was found in the park in Lagodekhi because you had some remote cameras out there, and that hadn't been seen in a long time. So this is a really good opportunity to look at some intangibles of hope and biological renewal and wildness and all of that. So that's one option. The second option is the forest. And I remember being there 12 years ago, walking through the forest and how beautiful it was, all the trees, the leaves, the sun coming through. So what I'd like you to do individually, we're going to take about 15 minutes to do this, is to pick one of those objects, either the mountain goat or the deciduous beechwood forest, and start a list of tangibles once you've selected that item, and then start a list of intangibles, and then you're going to develop your own theme statement. And we're going to come back and have some of you present those, and let's see how, if I'm doing a good job of teaching or your experience already in knowing this subject is going to help you develop an interpretive theme. And just
Andrea, just we have a couple of things here. First of all, how we would like to divide them into groups?
They're going to do it individually. I think that's the easiest because
so then this is not about groups. This is about everyone to make a choice, one or another, and and develop individually. All of them will be developing this individually. Is that your
Right.
offer?
Right.
Okay. ეხლა აი ამ საბორჯიშოზე ვლაპარაკობთ, თავიდან ჩვენ ჯგუფებად ვაპირებდით დაყოფოთ, მაგრამ ეხლა გადავიფიქრეთ. ესე იგი ეს ორი თემა გვაქვს. ერთი არის ჯიხვი, ენდემური სახეობა, სახასიათო, ერთ-ერთი უმნიშვნელოვანესი საფუძველი აი ამ
თუ შეიძლება რომ ჩაგერთო, შეიძლება ბოდიში რო გაწყვეტინებთ. მგონი ქალბატონს ქონდა საუბარი ნიამორზე, იმიტომ რომ ლაგოდეხში ნიამორი ცოტა იშვიათად ფიქსირდება, ვიდრე ჯიხვი, რომელიც შედარებით
არა, ჩვენ თავიდან ჯიხვი შევთავაზეთ და ამ შემთხვევაში
ახლა მგონი საუბარია ნიამორზე და უბრალოდ სხვები რო არ შევიდნენ შეცდომაში, მოდით ბოდიში რო ჩაგეჭერთ.
კი ბატონო, კარგი, იყოს ნიამორს ნაკლებად იცნობს საზოგადოება, მაგრამ მოკლედ კი ბატონო, იყოს ნიამორი, თავიდან ჩვენ საუბრობდით რომ ყოფილიყო მეორე თემა ამ ასე ვთქვათ წიფლის ხე, მაგრამ ამ შემთხვევაში აქცენტი გადავიდა ეხლა ტყეზე, რომელიც არის ერთ-ერთი ძველი ტყე, ნაწილობრივ კალკულობრივი ტყეც, რაც ლაგოდეხში გვაქვს. ეს ორი თემაა და ამ შემთხვევაში უნდა ინდივიდუალურად გაკეთდეს ჩამონათვალი, ასე ვთქვათ, ამ ყველაფერი როგორც ხელშესახები, ეს არა ხელშესახების, რას გვეუბნება ეს ერთი ან მეორე საკითხი. ინდივიდუალურად აიჩიეთ ეს თემები, ვისაც რომელი გინდათ. Andrea?
Yes. What were you saying?
No, this was discussion about that goat because originally what I pictures I sent to you that there was different goat and this is another goat.
Oh, it's not the correct one.
No, that's still a rare in Lagodekhi, but the major one was the reason of designation of Lagodekhi was different, but it doesn't matter for this exercise.
Well, my error, picture it's the goat in Lagodekhi, and I just took this off the internet, so I guess I didn't interpret correctly. But just make sure.
No, that doesn't matter in this case. Yeah. Again, that's a goat, endemic. That's not that one that was suggested, but doesn't matter.
Right. Okay.
And how we are going to report back?
Once the 15 minutes passes, a volunteer is going to come forward, several volunteers, hopefully, and then you'll list your tangibles and intangibles, and then your theme statement.
ესე იგი, კითხვა იყო გიასგან, რომ როგორ უნდა ჩაგაბაროთ ანგარიში, ანუ რომ გავა ეს დრო, რამდენიმე მის იქნება პირველ რიგში ყველა უფრო ინიციატივიანი, მათ ექნება საშუალება წარმოადგინონ ეს ესე იგი როგორც ხელშესახები, ასე არახელშესახები მხარე და თემა. როგორც ანგარიში, რაც იქნება მაგალითი იმისა თუ რაც აქამდე გავიარეთ, რამდენად არის აქვე.
So think of the history of the park. Why are those trees protected?
Andrea, are we already on an exercise or?
Yes, let's start now.
Okay.
Let's start now. So I think it's easiest to work individually.
All right.
If you want to get to one of your other coworkers and deal with the phone or whatever, you're welcome to do that. But I'd like to get to the point where we're developing theme statements.
We're giving out 15 minutes, right?
Yes. So at, let's see, at 10, 30, 40, say 10:40 or 10:35 is 15 minutes. And it doesn't matter exactly. We're doing good on time. I was worried about that, but we're doing good. So,
shall we start now?
Yes, we started already.
Okay.
All right. So remember, you've got two columns. One is your tangibles. The other column is your intangibles. And once you get those, think about connecting them and coming up with a theme statement.
კიდევ ერთხელ გავიმეოროთ, ესე იგი აიჩიებთ ჯერ აი ამ ერთს ან მეორე არჩევანს, შემდეგ აკეთებთ ხელშესახებ და არახელშესახებ ჩამონათვალს და შემდეგ ბოლოს გადიხართ თემაზე.
And this is not easy. I can't say I'm all that good at it. It takes practice, and you want to make sure your theme statement shows a relationship. Remember, we talked about fire and we talked about water. and what that intangible concept is, the universal concepts. You know, what is it about the symbol? And like I said, this goat is just representative of the goat, of the animal, and what is the symbolism of the forest. And it'll be interesting to see if you come up with different things, because you're different people, you have different experiences, you come with different backgrounds. So we're not looking for everyone to be the same. In fact, the goal would be to come up with some different themes. If you want to work with one of your other coworkers, that's fine. You figure out how to do that, whether it's on the phone or are any of you in the same place, or you're all individually separated?
I guess individually.
Yeah.
ასევე შეგიძლიათ თუ მანდა მაინც გულდგინდათ დაჯგუფდეთ კიდევაც და სხვა საშუალებებით ელაპარაკოთ ერთმანეთს ტელეფონი იქნება თუ ასე შემდეგ თუ ასე გინდათ თუ არა ინდივიდუალურად.
All right.
Luca, are you ready to present?
Our team is ready, but I'm sure
Tamar
Nino is about
raised her hand first.
All right. Andrea,
Tamar.
you decide who goes
Well,
first.
I did see Tamar's hand go up first. We'll let Luca go second. So, Tamar, would you please tell us which object you selected?
Well, I selected like forest, and have kind of two lists here, tangible and intangible. As for tangibles, I listed like landscape, endemic vegetations that changes according to the season, because we are blessed, our country is blessed to have 4 seasons, and this is great opportunity to see the same place in 4 different kind of phase. So it's, I guess, one of the pros. Well, rich flora and fauna, great range of biodiversity. As for intangible, I have like soundscape of the forest. It's pristine. It gives you like peaceful environment and provokes various feelings such as curiosity, for example, mostly like mainly in the kids. It can be inspirational, and also it can like provoke excitement.
Very good. Now, how did you put those together to come up with a theme statement?
I guess I missed that part.
Okay. All right. Well, that's something you might want to work on, because when we're doing programs or products, remember we have our non-personal services products, whether it's an exhibit or a brochure, and we want to base it on an interpretive theme. So at least you got a good start there with a nice list of tangibles and intangibles. All right, Luca, you're up.
Sorry. We made our list together as NCG,
okay.
So I'll be representing our tangible, intangible list. So we chose the forest. Tangibles are trees, squirrels, green leaves changing colors from season to season, beech seeds that are edible, texture of trees, moss and lichens that are growing on them, woodwoods as a source of insect life, edible fruits or vegetables that grow in a forest that local people can collect. And the intangibles are calming, relaxing area, deforestation, peace, observation, cultural links, that mythology connected to deciduous trees, and that's our list.
Okay, and did you come up with a theme statement?
It's our theme will be, I think, a relaxing area that can be used as both for observant people and for as an relaxing.
Okay.
Or maybe forest that gives us everything shortly.
Yes.
That gives us, I'm sorry, I didn't catch the last part.
He said the forest that gives us everything, I think.
Okay, all right. Theme statements are difficult. It takes some practice. And I think that's something when you're doing your planning, you might want to spend a little bit more time with. I am going to send a document through Pata's office that talks about theme development. Unfortunately, it is in English, so hopefully you will be able to use it as a resource. But it talks about, developing a theme statement and how important that is. And I think that's one of the first tasks that the team that's doing the interpretation part needs to focus on. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you design team, just keep that in mind, okay? Who would like to go next?
Maybe I go.
Okay.
If I may.
You may.
So again, I also have chosen the forest, and tangibles are more of the same. Yeah, I added lights and shadows here because the theme for me is beauty of the place. So it's kind of intangible, but to a certain point, intangible as well. Intangibles are beauty, peace, homeland. That's what I'm stayed for. And the theme is about if you want to continue enjoying this treasure, this peace, beauty, you should preserve this place and preserve the nature. And I came up with the slogan, actually, which I borrowed, which is well known for everybody. But it's kind of always in my mind, which says only after the last tree has been cut down, or only after the last river has been poisoned or drained, only after the last fish has been caught, only then you will find that money cannot be eaten. That I would put everywhere, actually, to people to understand this beauty.
Are any of you familiar with the story in the book called The Lorax? Look it up sometime. It's a cartoon. It's meant for children, but it's very applicable and very much to what you're saying. And it's a commercial logging company in cartoon form goes in and cuts down the forest. And the message.
What's the name?
The Lorax.
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 Okay.
Yeah, and it's a cartoon. It's a book and it's a little movie clip. I'm sure you can find it on the internet, but it's that very story. And you bring up a very good point as far as elements to an exhibit, which we'll talk about on Friday, and that is using quotes. You know, an appropriate quote can go a very long way in getting a message across. So good for you.
Andrea, we may want to invite somebody who chosen the goat.
Yes. Anyone out there chose the goat? Come on, speak up, guys. All right, go for it.
I chose. Can you hear me? I don't know.
Yes,
I
I can.
voice. Okay. Hello to everyone.
Would you pronounce your name for me, please?
It's Zviad.
Zviad. All right, go for it.
Yeah. So as a tangibles, of course, there is a goat. The rocks, plants, biodiversity, and nature as a general tangible thing. So from intangibles, I thought it would be a scientific value, educational, symbolic, and a cultural. Because the goat itself, even in Georgia, and as I know in many countries, mostly represents some strength and also some adventurous activities. So those are my intangibles.
All right. Yeah, the adventure is new for me. That's a really good one.
Yeah. There are like many companies or some festivals, projects, which are mostly include some adventurous activities like hiking or trekking or I don't know, whatever comes in your mind. They often use a symbol as a goat as a symbol. Yeah.
And did you come up with a theme statement?
Yep. Like I thought it would be nice to put it this way, that everything comes from nature. Yeah.
All right, very good, very good. Anyone else select the goat? All right, how about we hear from another forest? The way I understand with my limited knowledge is that Lagodekhi is symbolic as being the first reserve set aside because it was used for firewood. And so they were afraid, like the Lorax, that they were going to cut down all the trees. So that might be something you might want to consider in your theme statement, that this beautiful forest, even back in the early 1900s, was recognized as being unique and representing the need to preserve. In the US, we look at Yellowstone National Park. That was our first national park back in, when was it established? 872 or something? It was quite a while ago. And the fact that this area could have been used for grazing and hunting and logging and all the other uses in these types of resources, it was set aside. And you can imagine that concept was revolutionary, to set something aside. I found it interesting in the history of preserves and parks that in the US, some of the first parks were cemeteries because they were quiet. They had beautiful plantings, maybe not necessarily native plants, but that people would go picnic in a cemetery because they enjoyed being around nature, and how far we've come from that. And so I look at Lagodekhi and the forest and this brilliant Polish botanist as being revolutionary to your country for getting across the concept of preservation. So just my perspective and something you might want to consider in developing your theme.
Yeah, on that note, Andrea, this is the most important thing, that the theme, it's a natural ecosystem. Because of the naturalness is vanishing every day, every second. And again, that's the preservation of the wilderness, natural ecosystems, old growth forests. Those are just the major themes in Lagodekhi that makes this park globally important. So those are the associated to both options, to those goats, some of them are endemic to Caucasus, and to that forest, to both. The package of the ecosystems, ecotones that we have in there. So those are all themes that should be somehow reflected in the interpretive kind of design.
Right. The reason I chose those two, again, from my limited knowledge of the park and the resource, the reason I chose the goat was the miracle, if you will, that this goat hadn't been seen. I don't know if it was hunted out or there was environmental degradation that it could no longer survive, but the hope in nature that if left to herself, that these natural and local endemic species will return.
Yeah, the conservation of the area-based conservation is really one of the powerful, as you know, in situ conservation instrument that really creates those opportunities for wildlife even to come back.
Right, right. Now, at Lagodekhi and within your parks in general, do you have interpretive management plans? Is that something that you do?
Zaza Todolishvili, do you want to respond to that question? Or Natalia Nato from the headquarters of APA? Do you want to answer on those questions?
აქვე ბატონო პატა, ლაგოდეხში ინტერპრეტაციის რაიმე დოკუმენტი არ გვაქვს, მაგრამ ჩვენ გვაქვს მენეჯმენტის გეგმა, რომელიც ითვალისწინებს საგანმანათლებლო და საინტერპრეტაციო საშუალებების მომზადებას და პროგრამის ფარგლებში აქტივობების განხორციელებას.
They don't have a specialized interpretation plan, but those are covered. Those issues are, and then also the approaches and actions are covered under the major plans and some other operational plans that the APA is developing regularly as a cycle of the planning.
Okay. Well, it's something to consider because every national park has what's called a CIP. It's a comprehensive interpretive plan. And I can send you a link to at least give you an example. I also want to state that I just bring my perspective and my experience. I don't claim to know what's right for Georgia. It's for you to filter this information and know what works best for your resources. But I love that term, best practices, because this is what works in our country. And so, you know, it takes you and your objective perspective to know whether it's going to work in your country. So please just know these are suggestions.
Yeah, again, to put this in a more kind of planning system matrix, underneath of the operational plans, there's opportunity for specialized plans that could be the wildfire management plan or interpretation plan or any other specific plans. So that in that regard, there's a niche, there's a place where that kind of plan could fit well to the
Right.
planning system.
Because having good plans in place help you plan your personnel. How many staff do you need? Obviously, in the busy season, if that's the summer, you're going to need maybe temporary seasonal staff. Also, your budget, which is so critical to then refer to the staff, because if you don't have the funding available, and at least in the US, everything has to be justified. So when you can relate to interpret a plan that's been approved by your park leader and the people in the government, then you can say, section 1, level number 4 or whatever shows that we need 4 seasonals, and 4 seasonals cost X amount of money. And so that is the interpretive budget for the summer. So there's, we talked about interpretation's role in management, and it's important to have documents that then can support and justify what it is we want to do to create a positive visitor experience. And remember, our goal is to provide that interpretive opportunity so those visitors become supportive. And in the US, the whole thing is about voting. Are they going to vote one way or another about different issues? And we're going to talk more about some examples of that. But there was a project in Florida where they started back in, I think it was the 60s, to bring children to the park to learn about the problem with the sugar industry and how it was destroying the Everglades, which is a massive, massive swamp. And those children grew up to be voting adults, and they changed the nature of the politics in Florida to support the environment. And there's studies that show that happened because of environmental education with the school children coming to the park. So very critical connection there. Many of those children in urban Miami never went to the park. They'd never been on a boat. They'd never been on the water. So remember, we only protect what we understand. And the only way we can appreciate it is if we understand it. And that comes through interpretation. So it's very powerful when you think about it. If it's done right, the potential is magnificent.
Yeah, I think you are raising very important question and point, Andrea, when you are mentioning that youngsters who are kind of attending and adhering to this idea, when they're grown up, they're becoming a change agent, if you wish.
I like that word.
The attitude, yeah. Because a number of times we had projects in the adjacent areas to the different preserved territories in Georgia, and we were working with farmers, and mostly with subsistence farmers. And due to their economic kind of bottlenecks and challenges, they kind of were paying much less attention to the nature, whilst when working with children, they were more sensitive, and they were pushing their parents, to a certain extent, to become more, how to say, sensible to these issues. It is that's why this project is mostly focused on. It's a pilot, actually, right?
Right.
But it's mostly focused on educating and involving children and kind of youngster into this work, whatever. Yeah, thank you. It's very important point.
Yes, well, George, you make some really good points, and I want to congratulate whoever wrote this project up, because I was impressed when I read it about the depth and especially addressing accessibility. We have trouble in the United States getting managers and people to address the issue, and the fact that it was so strong in your proposal, I was able to make some contacts and bring on an accessibility specialist. And you'll get to meet Ray Bloomer on Thursday. And Ray Bloomer is blind since the age of 17. So he walks the talk of someone that is needing special assistance in some ways. But it's going to be a wonderful session. So I really hope you can join us on Thursday. I want to say we're doing really good with time. I was afraid we weren't going to have enough. But thanks to Pata for the translating and getting us into the rhythm of having me shut up and let you do your translation. And thank you all for your input and your questions. They're very thoughtful. I'm not going to let you go yet, though, because we have some homework. And I'll need to share my screen here again. And the homework is going to be, one is you're going to get a document, and it is about the Trail of Tears in the U.S. And I just would ask that you read that ahead of time, because Ray on Friday will be talking about an example that he worked with me on for the Trail of Tears. And rather than spending time talking about the history of the trail, just read that. It was a terrible time in America's history. It's kind of been swept under the rug, if you will. I don't remember learning about it till college anthropology. So a lot of youngsters did not learn about it, and we don't often speak about it. And I was fortunate to work in the National Historic Trails Office, where the Trail of Tears was one of our projects. So that's the easy part. That shouldn't take too long to read that. Now, on Friday, when I come back and join you again, so you get tomorrow off, but Thursday will be Ray, and then on Friday, we're going to actually look at wayside exhibits. We're going to dissect them from the inside out. So what you came up with today, based on the object you chose, I would like, please, for you to start writing some text. This will be very simple, a couple paragraphs, but start introducing, as a wayside exhibit, start introducing the visitor to your tangibles and intangibles and your theme that you selected. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I'm really excited to meet all of you and to learn about your background and your rich experiences you're bringing to this project. I'm very honored to be a part of this. And I think also, next week you're going to meet Larry. And Larry is our landscape architect, and he's going to take you in a whole different direction of the project, and that's the physical planning and surveying and background information needed to then physically dig this trail, because you can't put waysides out there the way the site is now. The site needs some improvement. And so he's going to talk about all of that. And I don't want to take away any of his thunder. Do you want to add anything, Larry? I don't know if you're still here.
Larry had to drop off, Andrea.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So I've been working with Larry. I've just met him in this project. He lives north of me in Denver, Colorado, and he's worked with Pata on several projects. He's been to Georgia, I believe, 4 times. So he brings a lot of experience, and we specialize. I know nothing about surveying. I know nothing about building a trail, but I do know about interpretation. So between the two of us, we hopefully will be able to impart to you enough information that you successfully accomplish this goal. And we are 1 minute early. I can't believe it. Pata, any closing remarks, or Ethan?
Yeah, I think that you did great setting up the task. What about the homework? One more time, just reading of that?
Yes, there's 2 elements.
Yeah.
One is to read the brief 1-page history about the Trail of Tears, so you'll understand better when Ray talks about the exhibit he worked on. And then to take the object you selected today, whether it was the goat or the forest, and start writing some text, some interpretive text that would go on a wayside exhibit. I want to mention just briefly, I had a note from Sandy, and he talked about a Japanese practice called forest bathing. And I thought that was very interesting. And, you go to the ocean, and at least I feel a sense of renewal. And I understand it's actually physical, that the wave action in the water causes the positive ions to increase, and that physically affects you in a positive way. And I don't know, it's something you may want to research if going into the forest. Forests are our big source of turning carbon dioxide into oxygen, which we all need oxygen. And I'm wondering if that process of the oxygen being generated causes us to feel at peace and to feel inspired, and the beauty of nature and all those things you mentioned on the intangibles. So does everyone understand the assignment for Friday?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So put your thinking caps on. I want to see that you come up with some writing, some paragraphs that you can start putting together a wayside
Sorry,
exhibit.
can I ask you something?
Yes, please go ahead.
Can we also make some kind of visuals or some kind of designs, kind of mock-ups, or, I mean?
Yes, that's going to be the assignment on Friday. Are you a designer?
Yeah.
So you're jumping the gun just a little bit, which is great. We're happy to have you and your skills. But that's what we're going to do on Friday. I'm going to dissect a wayside exhibit, talk about design elements and even the use of fonts and things like that. And then you're going to have some time to work with that information and start making a simple design. So yes, if you want to jump ahead, you're welcome to. But I'm going to have a lot of information ahead of time or during that session to talk about. Okay?